Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Studio Live today and a mobile recording Q&A. Yes, you can ask me anything. We are going to be focusing in on mobile recording, the gear, the software, the know-how, whatever questions you have on your mind, you can ask them. And we're also going to go through my refreshed gear guide. Yeah, the studio gear guide here on Studio Live today has just been refreshed, and I've made it easier than ever. If you're getting started or if you're wanting to level up your home studio, your mobile studio setup, you can jump on over there to the studio gear guide at studiolivetoday.com/gear. If we jump on over there, we can take a look. This is what it looks like now. You've still got the affiliate links up the top there to Amazon, Sweetwater, eBay, Thomann, and all the places there. But here's what I've done, see, is that I've changed this around. We've now got my mobile setup here, all of the bits of kit that I use in my mobile setup here, as well as my desktop setup. So all of the stuff that I use for these live streams here, including my actual Mac and iPad devices, all of the different audio interfaces and things to get yourself plugged in, set up, and ready to rock and roll. So if you are in the market for any gear, you can use the link that you see down below, studiolivetoday.com/gear, and it will jump you right on over here. And again, it's all there for you. And all the gear that I have there is what I recommend. None of the stuff there hasn't been tested. It's all stuff that I literally have in my studio. I'm surrounded by it right now, right here in the studio. So it is all there for you. If you do have a question throughout the show here, we will be going through some of the gear that I use, and I'll just be sort of talking and spitballing about it as we go through. But your questions are what's important. So if you've got a question, all you need to do is add question at the start of your comment here in the chat, and you will be good to go. And you can do like the cool people that we have here live. Let's say good day to them, shall we? If you're on the replay, don't worry. I'll put some timestamps down below so that you can find the section where I go through the gear, which I'm going to do in just a moment. We'll do the mobile setup and then the desktop setup, and we'll answer some questions in between. But hello to Bear. We have Jade Star is in the house here. We've got Joe Glenn. Friggsy has dropped on by. Hello, Maiden Texas 78. We've got Peter here. Hello to you. Soul Rack M7, our buddy Carlito there. We've got Ashley HM. EmoBot 9000 does not compute. EmoBot 9000. Hello to you. Who have I missed here? Christopher Rossi is here. Thanks for being here. And Adam, thank you, my friend. Adam's throwing the super sticker our way. Pair character jumping up and down saying number one fan. A little bit lost in translation when you're using something like Restream. And yes, I am using Restream. You might have noticed that the interface here is a little bit different. I'm testing out Restream again. So StreamYard's what I use for most of my live streaming. This is Restream. So if you've got feedback on the stream itself, on the audio, on the video, on how it's all coming together, let me know that throughout the show as well. Thomas Christ is in the house here. Hello to Kenneth. Who have I missed here? Gregory O'Sullivan, good morning to you. And Johnny Rodriguez, hello to you. So I'm scrolling down. It keeps going and going and going. GSON official, hello to you. And Deep Gravity, Joe Glenn, g'day to everyone. Once again, you got the questions. All you need to do is throw them here in the chat. If I miss any, I will try and jump back around and answer them as we go throughout the show. But once again, what we're going to do here is jump over to the gear guide, and I'm going to show you what I've updated here. Because here in what is October 2021, I've actually made a few changes and I've rehashed my studio. If you follow me on Instagram, and I recommend you do, or any of the other places, you would have seen some photos. And I'll do a full sort of studio overview in the next couple of days where I'll actually show you the stuff. But this is like a sneak peek preview of what's going on. So over here on the gear guide, once again, my mobile setup now is the iPad Pro 2020. The iRig Pro Duo IO has replaced the Steinberg UI22C. Yes, it has finally happened. Would you believe it? We've got the Sennheiser HD 280 Pros, still my go-to cans. My AKG D5 microphone. Now, I've been using this a lot more than I have been using my condenser mic. and I'll explain a little bit to you about why as we go through as well today. The M Audio Keystation 49, which is not on the desk right now because it's a bit big and clunky. That sort of comes out when I need to use it. The 10 DAC powered hub, the OG, the one that's been there forever. The Atola USB-C adapter is what I've switched to here with my iPad Pro. That's working really well now. We've got the Presonus Iris 3.5 monitor speakers, the Taylor guitar, of course, my Taylor, Mark Taylor over there, the Apple Magic Keyboard, and my Logitech mouse. So that's my full kit and caboodle. That's the whole setup that I have here for my mobile recording rig, and that's what we're going to be going through here. And I'm just going to show you all the gear and tell you why I use it. And as we go, if you're here live or if you're on the replay, if you've got your own comments, your own feedback, your own opinions, feel free to chuck them right here in the chat or in the comments below, and you'll be able to do that. So we're going to jump on over here and take a look at all these things. So let's start at the very beginning, shall we? Let's start with my iPad. Now, I'm currently using this iPad here, which is the Apple 2020 iPad Pro 11-inch space gray. Mine's actually the 512 gig model. So all of these that, by the way, you would have seen that the links in the gear guide there, you can actually use the links there. And regardless of whether you're in the US, the UK, Canada, or Australia, you can actually use those links. It'll drop you straight into Amazon in your area, run a search, and the stuff will be there for you to check out. If you're outside of those areas, I apologize, but you can again use the links up the top here to use something like eBay or Thomann if you're in places where you don't use the Amazon or the Sweetwater. So why do I have the iPad Pro 2020? Well, because I bought it and then they brought out the 2021 with the M1 chip, and that was slightly better, but it's not good enough. So that's the thing. So the M1 chip is what's in the Macs, and we'll talk about that a bit more when we get to the Mac Mini, which is my desktop setup. But the iPad Pro, this one here, what it's called the second generation. It's actually the fourth generation. The reason I bought this one is that I was using an old iPad Pro first gen and an iPad Air 2, and I wanted something that was going to have a lot of horsepower. Now, you might say, you bought it at the wrong time, exactly the wrong time, 2020, and then they brought out the 2021s. I actually think this thing is still punches way above its weight. And the good news is that if you're looking for a second-hand iPad, you can pick these up for quite a bit cheaper now because you're getting refurbished models, because suckers like me that are going to probably update to the 2021 M1 version soon are going to be selling their perfectly good 2020 version. So there is that is something to keep in mind. But that's not like the central part. Now, I'll show you one other thing here. I didn't have this prepared earlier, but I've also been updating my iPad buyer's guide. It's slowly coming together over here, but you can see here it's been updated just recently, and I've got my best performance, my best all-rounders, and my best budget and kids and entry-level ones. So my iPad Pro, the 4th gen, is sitting right in here in the middle as the best all-rounder. So it's still pretty cool, still running the A12 chip, but you can see it's kind of been eclipsed now because things like the Mini have the A15, the iPad Air has the A15, and of course the new iPad Pro has the M1 chip, which is pretty special. So that is part one. We'll jump over and grab the next thing in my list here, but I'll jump in and just check the chat after each thing to go through each one. Friggsy says, I would recommend further update of the links to include Europe, excluding UK. We can't really buy from the UK anymore since thing. And thank you. And I think you've noted there that, I've updated with Thomann. So I've got Thomann there. I've got eBay. If there's other places, I think there's places like Musician's Friend and Guitar Center. If there's anything that you think would be cool that does have an affiliate program, I'm happy to sign up for them and get your links to those, because that's where Thomann came about. That a lot of people in other parts of Europe have said, yep, I only use Thomann. Do you have a link for that? So you can jump in through that link and you'll be good to go. We've got a question here, which we'll jump in to, because that's what we're all about here today. I'm nearing the end of a recording process of a song, and I've been working in GarageBand, and I feel like I'm having a hard time really making it sound like a real song instead of just a demo. Yeah, this can be a tough thing when you're working on a song and you're at that demo phase, and you're like, okay, this still sounds a bit like a demo. Usually, the key things that I find with this is that it's the editing phase, and then it's when you're adding in things like compression and reverb and delay that glue it together. So when you're doing a demo, you kind of just record track. And when you get to the end of a demo, quite often it can sound like it's a whole bunch of individual tracks, and then you just smush them together. They don't sound cohesive. So for me, going in and editing out any silences that you don't need there, doing your tops and tails of your different tracks, like removing any rough edges, making sure you're using compression effectively for things like vocals, guitars, drums to really pull them up in the mix. And then that sweetening. And I use a lot of master reverb and master delay or echo in GarageBand because that kind of glues the mix together. Instead of it sounding like 8 different tracks all recorded at different times, which is what it is, it can make it sound like a whole band playing together. So they're kind of my basic tips on that one. My recommendation, of course, is to jump over to the GarageBand users Facebook group. You can go to studiolivetoday.com/GBU. It'll take you there, or the Create, Record, Release Facebook group at createrecordrelease.com. They are 2 great places where people will help you out. You can chuck your mix there and say, hey, this isn't really sticking together. What are you hearing? Is there anything you think I can do differently? And the folks there will definitely be able to help you out. Adam says, I always buy refurbished Apple products, less and same warranty. Hundreds, yeah, exactly. So it's actually a brilliant time because whenever Apple bring out a whole bunch of new gear, which they've just done, a whole bunch of new iPhones, whole bunch of new iPads, the refurbished ones, the secondhand ones, if you buy them through a reputable retailer, buy them direct through Apple or buy them through Amazon where you've got buyer protection, you can actually get yourself a ridiculously good deal. Yeah, and direct from Apple is probably the safest way to go. Question or comment here. I'm new to the game. This is made in Texas. I have access to a MacBook Pro, but I would like to do some work on the iPad 8th Gen on the go. Is the iPad 8th Gen too weak to run a drum program like KVLT drums? So I'm not super familiar with KVLT drums. The iPad 8th Gen is still pretty solid. My daughter has the iPad 8th Gen. It's running the A11 chip, I think, or the A12. It's running a reasonably modern chip. It'll run iPad OS 15, and she uses GarageBand. She uses LumaFusion to edit video, and it works really well. So I would give it a try. Basically anything past about the iPad Air 3 or 4, like again, if you jump back over to my iPad guide over here, I'm just getting used to Restream. Here on the iPad guide, yeah, I still recommend things like, so the 9th Gen is what I recommend for an all-rounder because it's got the A13. The 8th Gen has the A12, I believe, which is the chip before that, but it's still a good chip. It's still going to run fine, and for your basic apps, it's still going to do a good job, in my opinion. But if others have other opinions, then jump in and let us know. All right, well, scrolling down, we'll just make sure. Bear says, I buy a lot of used equipment through Guitar Center because they give you 45 days to return it, and there's a store near me. Yeah, I've heard good things about Guitar Center as well, for sure. We'll just scroll on down and see if we have any more. No problem at all. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it, and no problem at all. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for contributing. All right, let's jump into the next bit of kit. This is going to be all a bit mixed up. I'm going to say mangled. It could be a mangled, but it's going to be mixed up here because we're going to go through the gear and then I'm going to keep an eye on the chat and jump into there. But the next bit of gear we're going to talk about here is this one here. This is the iRig Pro IO Duo, and this is sitting right here on my desk. I'm touching it with my hand. This is the piece of kit that has replaced my Steinberg UR22C. Now, I had the original iRig Pro IO. I actually donated that to a worthy recipient who's now putting that to use because I updated to this one. And when I say updated, full disclosure, IK Multimedia sent this to me because I said, look, I love my iRig Pro. A lot of people have said, what's the Pro Duo? What's the difference? Can you check that one out? And I can. So the reason that I use this one now is it's right there on the side. You've got balanced TRS outputs. So you can get stereo outputs. So I can send them straight into my mixer, my Zoom LiveTrak. We'll talk about that later. And that means that if I've got a stereo signal, I can actually play that through there. Of course, you've also got at the bottom end here, you've got, where are we? There we go. You've got 2 combo jacks here. So you've got 2 combo jacks here where you can either use a balanced TRS, a straight TS, like an instrument jack, or a microphone. So I've got the ability to record a stereo line in signal, a microphone, 2 microphones, in fact, or 2 guitars, or a guitar and a mic. Just gives you that full flexibility. On the front here, you've got your 2 gain dials and controls there. You've got the very nice lighting system. I do find that the iRig has a really good way of identifying because you've got that green, yellow, red, so you can really easily identify your signal levels and whether you're clipping, and you've even got MIDI on this sucker. So you've got MIDI in and out. Now, the biggest drawback of this is this little DIN connector. I don't love it. I don't think it is the best option because you've got to have all these little cables, and I'm worried on the day that I lose those proprietary cables. You can rebuy them, but they're non-standard, and anything non-standard scares me a little bit. You can also get a power supply for this. I actually run mine through a powered USB hub and then a powered adapter. And I'll show you all those in a moment because with my iPad Pro with a USB-C, it makes it really easy for power management. We'll talk about that in a moment. But that's now my go-to. And I know for those that have been around the channel for a while, that's probably the biggest change because in the past, and look, I still love it. It's sitting on the shelf. There it is. It's sitting over there looking lonely. It's probably crying right now. But the Steinberg UR22C is still a great buy. It's about the same cost, a little bit more, but it's solid and it works really well. But I've just found that for portability, the other thing with the iRig Pro Duo is for portability. I can just unplug it from my rig here and take it with me with my iPhone or my iPad. I can plug it into my Mac or my PC. It's a go anywhere, plug in anywhere, just work kind of device. So that's why I'm kind of turned a little bit on that one. All right, let's jump over. I think we saw some questions here. We did have a question from hello to Adventures of Two Afloat, who I've been chatting with recently. How do you get audio from the iPad Pro into monitor speakers without having a 3.5 out on your iPad? Yes, I think I answered that question in exactly what I was talking about just then. So with the iRig, the iRig, yeah. So at the moment, I monitor straight out of this one. So on the bottom of the iRig, sorry, on the side, where are we? There. So on the side there, you've got stereo TRS balanced output. So a left and a right there, and they go straight out. That can go straight into monitor speakers. I go into my mixer, and then my mixer out to monitor speakers, just because I do these live streams and I need to be able to do that. But they can go straight out to monitor speakers. You can also use the headphone jack to go straight out to monitor speakers. So you can just grab a 3.5 mil to 3.5 mil or to 2 TS cable there and go straight out of that headphone jack into your monitor speakers as well if you want to. But yeah, that's the way I do it. You can also get yourself a cable adapter. So there's a 3.5 mil to USB-C. I've got one. I think it might be in my bag actually. Yeah, they're the little Apple ones. They're like $10, and they're handy to have too. Because if you just want to plug in a regular pair of headphones, you can just go ahead and plug that one in. So, hopefully that helps you out there. But I hope you're doing well. Yes, I know Mark is is someone who loves the boat life. So there you go. And yes, you were asking that right. So good job there. Bear says I had an iRig that burned out the bridge pickup on my Gibson. Oh, that is not good. I'm probably thinking that was an earlier iRig because they've definitely come a long way. The iRig Pros, they don't because they use a digital connection. The older ones that use the 3.5 mil connections, they're okay, but I definitely recommend digital these days if you can do that. Question here from Gson. Nothing music related. That's all right. It's Ask Me Anything, my friend. But any advice on making a YouTube logo and intro? No, because I'm not the greatest with this. My logo was just made by grabbing Canva. I think my main advice is Canva because Canva has a free version. There's also a paid version, but it helps you with design. It's got audio, it's got video, it's got titles, it's got logos, it's got graphics, it's got photos. And if you're someone like me who's not super creative but just want a bit of a leg up, canva.com is what I recommend. There's a link down in the description. In fact, if you want to try it out for free, I think there's still a free 30-day trial for the pro version. Again, if you're doing these things and you're not sure about them, do set yourself a reminder. I'll say that now. Like, I don't want anyone to get tricked into accidentally going into the pro version when they don't want to. But if you sign up for the free version, try the pro version. And look, if you've got 30 days free, like, make all your stuff, make all your assets, make all of your screenshots, make all of your thumbnails, make all of your logos and stuff. And then if you're still finding it cool, then hey, great, keep using it. If you don't, you can move on from there. What is the use of a compressor? So I would recommend checking out some videos here on the channel. We won't go into details about the basics of compression, but if you go to the YouTubes and you search my name, Pete Johns, and compression, what you'll find is a whole lot of videos over there. So there you go. You've got the 12-minute guide. That's probably the best one to go for. That's a 12-minute guide to compression where I go through in detail everything about it. What does the ratio mean? What's the threshold? All of the stuff that you need to know about compression. And then, of course, there's more, I guess, practical versions where I actually show how to do compression in a song. So if you want to learn about compression, and the same goes for pretty much anything. Just put my name and the name of something you're searching for, and you should be all good to go. Oh, question. What's better for you for sad songs, B minor or G minor? I'm a big B minor fan. I'm going to grab my guitar so that I can answer the question correctly. I'm a big B minor fan. If you've ever heard a lot of my songs, you'll know that I I love a B minor, especially a B minor 7. I think it's one of the coolest chords going around. So I guess my answer would be B minor. Plus, it's a heck of a lot easier to play. G minor, it's easy if you play the bar chord version up on the 3rd fret, but yeah, I'm a B minor guy. Yes, the iRig has come a heck of a long way, for sure. The older ones, like the older iRigs, I don't have any of my gear handy today. I've cleaned up my desktop. I can't find it. You know the old barrel ones that just have the 3.5mm jack. Yeah, they were okay. They did the thing for what they could at the time. Where do you get your song inspiration? Where do you find your song inspiration? So, a lot of my song inspiration comes from what I see. So, I've talked about it before, and what I recommend is if you want to find a little bit more about my inspiration and stuff, check out the Song Timber. So, if you search for Pete John's Song Timber, I did a whole series through the months of September where I showed you how I actually create, record, and release a whole song. And what a lot of it comes from is my life experience. So, I do a lot of walking, do a lot of people watching. I sort of see what happens, and then I grab my phone and I throw in ideas. And my song Work in Progress all came from me sort of walking around and seeing different people and seeing different people behaving and acting in different ways. And it just dawned on me, I'm like, yeah, we're all just a work in progress. Nobody's got it figured out. And then like we're all just a work in progress. And then I sort of sung that into my phone, came home, put it to some chord progressions, and then yeah, that was it. So for me, it's working on a hook, working on something that's going to be the theme, and then the song grows out of that. I'm not like a poetry guy where I'll sit down and write a whole poem and then put that to music. I'm not like write a whole score or piece guy and then try and cram lyrics into that. It kind of comes from the concept and the hook, and then it builds out from there. Yeah, check it out. Should hopefully help you out with that one. What can I do if I get an iPad and download GarageBand? What can't you do? You can do everything. I would recommend jumping over to the GarageBand Essentials playlist. If you go to studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand, in fact, it's the GarageBand FAQ. So studiolivetoday.com/GarageBand. And this is a good starting point for anyone starting out with GarageBand. This is my FAQ. So what you can do from here, you can check out my $10 course. So that's just 5 hours of curated content that gets straight to the point if you want a real fast track. Or you can come down here and check out all these playlists. So I've got my What is GarageBand if you want the absolute basics, how to start a song, how to set up a song, my quick jam tutorials, so little 2 to 3 minute videos that are little chunks of information, and this playlist here, the GarageBand iOS Essentials playlist. This is probably the place to go if you want to get started and learn a bunch of stuff. So there's like 30, 40 videos in there, and that's all of the basics of everything from what the heck is it, to how do you use it, to how do you find tutorials, to how do you make a complete song using GarageBand. So that would be my recommendation for you there, my friend, if you want to learn you some GarageBand. All right. Are we nearly caught up? We're nearly caught up, but we'll grab another couple of questions and then we'll continue on. Question. What's- You flatter me, sir. Thank you. No, it's super humbling that enough people care about what I have to say about things that they want to listen to me. To be honest, didn't really think it would be in this position, but super duper happy to be able to help people and to provide information that's going to help people out. Barry Smith says, should I get the new iPad Pro M1 and will it work with my audio interface? It should do. It'll work with any class compliant audio interface. So class compliance just means that it runs without a driver. So because iOS devices, Apple devices, iPhones and iPads don't have the ability to install drivers like a Mac or a PC does, you need a device that doesn't need device drivers. So most of your audio interfaces, the last probably 10 years almost, at least 5 years. So any modern audio interface that you've bought in the last sort of 4 to 5 years is going to be class compliant. Now, some will need more power than others, and we'll talk about that actually. When we get back to the gear, we'll talk more about that because it should help. I'm just going to scroll on down. Difference between compression and limiting. Yeah, again, check out that compression video, Peter, because it'll tell you that. Basically, compression, they're very similar, but compression is you can clip with compression. Limiting is like a compressor that'll lift your volume, but it'll hit a brick wall. So limiter, by its very nature, limits the amount of gain that can go through. A compressor will let you compress and go up above that threshold. That's basically the main thing. Question from Solarax says, I have a question. I'm going to be on to message because it doesn't fit. Is there any apps that when I play my physical keyboard to control the MIDI sounds, it will show the actual letters on the screen? Not the key, but the letter itself. That's a really good question, and I'm not sure. I don't believe so. But then maybe that's the question for the group here, because I know Solrak is vision impaired, and I know that I've had so Acer sent me some great information about the new accessibility features in GarageBand. I know that iOS in general, its accessibility is being upgraded and updated, and version 15 is probably the best yet. Still got some stuff to change, but it's probably the best yet. So I don't know the answer to that one, but hopefully others may actually have some answers. All right, we're going to jump over here. We're going to jump out over here, and yes, good point there, Sion. So Sion was helping out with some questions there. The cool thing is we've got a lot of moderators here that and a lot of people that know their stuff. So Sion has a good channel where he talks about a lot of the same sort of stuff that I do here. Obviously, we've got Jade Star, we've got Thomas Christ, we've got a bunch of other folks here that will all help you out when you need it. Let's move on to the next piece of kit here, shall we? Because we're going to talk headphones. And those that have been around the channel for a while know that I live in these. These are the Sennheiser HD 280 Pro. I'll just remove that one here. Boom. The Sennheiser HD 280 Pro. So why do I like these headphones? I've talked about it before, and I won't go into a heap of detail, but because there's a full review that you can check out on the channel about these headphones. But really comfortable, nice padded ears, nice large oval shaped ear cups that help people with big heads and big ears like me. They've got the curly cord, which you can't see there, but you can see here. There's the curliness of the curly cord. So that means you can get a bit further away from things and it doesn't snap back, which I really like. The connector on this one is really good. So it's got like the gold plated screw in connector, and it comes with, it doesn't have a picture of this here, but it comes with both the 3.5mm, there's the curly cord. Oh, there it is, right there. Comes with both the 3.5mm, and then you screw it into the 1/4 inch. And that just means that it's flexible for everything. And don't underestimate these little padded bits on the top here. These are what make, especially when you're follically challenged like me, that's what makes it comfortable to put on the top of your head. So, so the HD 280 Pro, and now these are closed back studio monitor headphones. They're reference monitoring headphones. So if you've got your Beats by Dre and then you put these on, they will sound so thin because these are not overhyping the bass. These are giving you the flattest possible frequency response. And look, these are $100 headphones, so it's not going to be super flat. You could buy, $500 like the Sennheiser HD 600 series, but these are the best, in my opinion, the best bang for buck. I know Jade Star picked up a pair and enjoys them as well. I know a lot of people, no one I've recommended these to has bought them and come back at me and said, they're the worst headphones I've ever had. For some people, they're a little bit surprised that they are so flat. So when you're listening to music, you might be like, where's the bass, man? Where's the bass? But apart from that, if you're mixing, if you're mastering, if you're monitoring, if you're recording and tracking especially, you want to have these. And you want to have closed back earphones like these that go all the way around your ear, because you're going to get less mic bleed. So less of your audio is going to escape when you're recording and go into your microphone. So that's going to help you out as well. So yeah, once again, jump over to the gear guide. The gear guide is right here. If you want to check it out, studiolivetoday.com/gear. We'll check in with the folks here on the chat and see if we've got any follow-up questions. Is it better to mix? Is it better to mix and master in headphones or out loud? It's the age-old question. Most people will say a good pair of monitor speakers in a well-treated room is your best bet, and they're generally right. For most of us in the mobile studio in particular, a pair of headphones is going to be better for you, because if you're in a non-pristine environment, like I'm here in a bedroom studio, so I've got reflections, I've got other things around here. I do have monitor speakers, and I do use them to reference as well, but my headphones are probably used about half the time. And once you're used to it, the headphones and how they sound, then not that it doesn't matter, but it makes less difference. The key thing to think about, though, is that if you are mixing on headphones, referencing your mixes in other places, the car, the home theater, the Bluetooth speaker, little mini earbuds, your actual phone speaker, so you hear it in mono, all of those things are super important. So regardless of where you're doing it, make sure that you do have the ability to actually listen on other environments. That's going to help you out. Clayton von Kluge. Do you use the app AutoKey to figure out sample keys, or do you ever use samples that way? I can't figure it out by ear. I got the app for fun. I haven't. I'm not aware of the app. Sounds cool, but yeah, it is. I did a video on how to identify like what key loops are in and samples are in. The GarageBand sample is pretty good because you can sort of tune your samples and you can change the key of them. And apparently, the Logic sampler is amazing. It does a really, really good job. Um, but yeah, no, not something I've personally tried. Yes, I'm definitely follically challenged. Yeah, I can actually grow hair, funnily enough, but I just don't. I shave my head because I'm like, you know what? Once I do finally go completely bald, no one will know because I've been shaving my head for 10 years. There you go. Clayton says, I had the Beats by Dre, overpriced, but actually good. Yeah, look, they are, and they're good, and especially if you listen to a lot of bass heavy music, but they're not good for mixing and they're not good for mastering. Why? Because if it's overhyping your bass, you need to be able to translate that for someone who is listening on earbuds or who is listening on a Bluetooth speaker that won't have a heap of bass. So keep that in mind. Hello, Angelique Ellis says, what is the best way to share iOS voice memos to repost on social media and or share to photos? Okay. So there's a couple of things you can do here with the Voice Memos app in iOS. In fact, we'll bring it up here. There is the ability to actually export your voice memos from memory. I've got to remember this now. Yes, we can. So why don't I bring it up? Here's one I prepared earlier. Here is my iPad Pro that we were talking about before. And here's just a little sort of fingerstyle idea that I have here. We'll play this. So what if I want to share this audio? Well, it's pretty much as simple as using the share button here up the top. So if we click on this share button, we can actually share this out here to any other app so we can save it. What I normally do, I love this app called Audio Share. So I'll normally send my audio to Audio Share because I find Audio Share is just an easier way to manage everything, but you can save it directly to your files here. So if I wanted to save this as a file outside of the voice memos, I just go save to files, and let's just stick it so that I know where it is. We'll pop it in my iCloud drive and we'll just pop it straight in my Studio Live Today folder just for now. So we've saved that into my Studio Live Today folder. Now, if I go out to my Files app, it'll be right there. So iCloud Drive, Studio Live Today, and here is this fingerstyle mellow idea. So now this is just a standard M4A file here that I can play. And from here, I can do whatever I want with it. So if I want to put this into iMovie and create a little video from it, or if I want to throw this into GarageBand to tweak and then to export from there, you can do it all that way. So it's actually pretty easy and pretty powerful, Angelique. If you do want to use those voice memos, the voice memos here in iOS has actually come a very long way from what it used to be. There's lots of good editing and lots of good trimming options and other things you can do in there. So, and that's actually a good idea. I should probably do a video. Here you go. This is why I do these shows. That goes into my ideas folder here now for a future video, which is which is going to be how to just move that out of the way. Video idea, which is how to export voice memos. Because I think a lot of people do that. They'll record something and then they'll want to use it. And the cool thing is, you can even use your voice memos to record things like found sounds, like when you're out and about, if you've got like a cool sample, and then you can bring that into like a GarageBand project and use that in the sampler. So there's a lot of cool things you can do with that. Very cool stuff. What is my favorite keyboard and drum pad for iPad, which can create music on GarageBand indoor on PC or indoor on PC? So there's a lot of questions there. Keyboard or drum pad for iPad. So we're talking about hardware. For hardware, I actually use the KeyStation 49 from M Audio. I find that the best value, the best bang for your buck. The Arturia KeyStep, especially if you're doing drums as well, is something that I know Jade Starr uses and recommends, and a lot of other folks. Doug at the Sound Test Room uses and recommends. So there are a couple of options there. Yeah, basically, again, as long as it's class compliant, you can't really go wrong. GarageBand on iOS doesn't have a whole lot of customization. So if you've got like pads and things on your keyboard, if you've got like those higher end keyboards, those pads aren't usually programmable in the software side. So that's why something like the Arturia KeyStep is a good option, because you can actually program that on the hardware side to send whatever you want into something like GarageBand. So there's a few options, and we'll be taking a look in a moment actually at the KeyStation 49, the one that I use. All right. Once again, if you do have any other questions, please just put question in front of them. It'll make it easier for me to see them here. La, 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 la. But yeah, and keep in mind that if you are sharing audio, places like Facebook and Instagram need a video as well. So that's where iMovie is handy. And what I use, LumaFusion. So if you want to up your video game, try something like LumaFusion. It's a really cool video editor. It's what I use to do all my video editing on iPad and iPhone, and it's just got a lot of options in there. So because you need a video, you can't share just plain audio if you're sharing it through to most social media sites. Rob Harley says, "Hi Pete, hello Rob. What do you think would be the best auto tune or pitch correction app or tool just to keep my voice in tune without sounding like a rapper?" I mean, auto tune is the classic. That's the OG. So if you're not aware, the auto tune is an actual app itself. So the original, the OG auto tune was created by. There's an interesting story behind that. If you watch the documentary, what is it called? Pop. This is Pop on Netflix. There's a really interesting interview with the dude who did it, and he originally did it. He was he was an engineer for a mining company. Yeah, right. And he was trying to work out. He was using sonic waves to sort of work out how deep things were, and he realized that he could actually get these sounds and work out what pitch they were and actually change them using the frequency identifier within AutoTune. So AutoTune is a good one if you're on a Mac or a PC. You can get the AU or the VST of that. To be honest, I use just a straight pitch correction. Like there's a bunch of other tuning apps, but because I use GarageBand iOS, I use pitch correction, and it's all about subtlety. So if you're just trying to correct it, and the other thing that I'll mention here is instead of putting auto-tune, so the biggest tip that I have for this, and this may help you out here, Rob, is instead of putting auto-tune on your whole track, split your track off into two. You can do this in any DAW. Split your track into two, and then only process the small sections where you need it. Because what you tend to find, if you're a good singer, you may have 90 to 95% of the song that is spot on, and you got those 5% or that 10% of cringe notes where you just want to tweak that one note a little bit. So what I would recommend is getting your track, splitting out different chunks of it onto a second track with all the same settings, and then it'll just move between the two, and then just apply the smallest amount of tuning on that second track. That way it'll be as natural as possible the whole way through, and if there's just those one or two or three phrases that you need to tune, you're tuning them just on the second track. Hopefully that makes sense. It's what I've started doing because I don't want to have have it on everything. Like it sucks to have tuning across everything. Let's have a look. Clayton von Kluge says, question: do you think if sometime when you have time, I could send you a list of you can tell me how to maximize what I do have and what to get rid of and what to buy? That might be an interesting idea for a show to say to share your setups. In fact, that's going in the list, Clayton. Because yeah, that would be an interesting one to have viewers share your mobile recording or your home recording setups, and for me to take a look at it and go, all right, what would you go with? Like, what would you replace this? What would you replace first? Because that's kind of where I was at, and where I'm at the moment is the next thing I'm going to replace. Well, the next thing I am replacing is my headphones. It sounds weird. I'm actually buying a pair of in-ear monitors, the Shure CL210s, which I've just ordered. I don't have them yet. You'll see them when I get them. So I've ordered them because whilst these are great, if I'm doing a 2-3 hour stream like I'm doing here today, it gets a little bit warm under here. So my ears get a little bit hot. By the end of it, I take the headphones off and I'm like, ah. So in-ear monitors for doing things like live streaming and longer sessions is something that I'm going with. And I'm still on the fence about whether I get a broadcast microphone, like one of the broadcast dynamics. Maybe not something like the Shure SM7B, but maybe something that's a little bit more of a dynamic broadcast mic. This one's fine. It's just because it's condenser, it's a little bit crispy. And I'd like to have that little bit more radio-ready sounding voice when I do live streams. Recommendation. Mic stand recommendation for small space. Desktop is okay. Good question. We talked about this recently. Have a quick drink. Side note, the Thriving Creator podcast. My friend Sarah Newen, check this out. Go to your podcast app right now while you're watching this and type in Thriving Creator. Subscribe to Sarah's podcast. It's very cool. And you can, I did an episode on there you can check out. Mic stand recommendations. So it's good. It's relevant too, because the next thing I'm thinking about is replacing this, because I've been using a mic boom arm, and this is my recommendation for everyone, is that instead of a desktop stand, instead of a standalone microphone stand, get yourself a mic boom arm. They're really convenient. They're really handy. Like this one here, it's got like a scissor thing on there that I can just position wherever I want to. If I need to move over here, and I'm recording guitar, I can do that. I can just place it. You can set it. It's spring loaded, so it just sets in nicely and it sits there. And this is just a $20 eBay job. So in fact, if let's just go to eBay, we'll find this. We'll go to Amazon. So go through the gear guide. This is the how to buy edition. But if you go to the Studio Live Today gear guide over here, let's just find one. Let's find one that might do the job here. So here's the gear guide. Say we're in the US, because I know that our friend Adventures of Tour Flow is in the US, and we jump in here. What we can do is this will take you straight into all your audio equipment, by the way, if you just click that US button. And then what we'll do is we'll go boom. What are these called? Oh man, what am I talking about? Not boom arm. What are they called? Microphone, desk stand. They're yeah, microphone arm. Yeah, one like this. So look, this is pretty cool for like $12.95. That's not bad. So I would go with more of these microphone boom arm. So let's go with this one. Down from $20. Oh, you get all this extra stuff too. I don't know what the heck all that is. Oh, that's just showing examples of how it works. This is basically exactly the one that I have. Very simple clamp there. You can clamp onto any surface. And then it's just got the two part there with the spring loaded. You got the microphone clip on the top there. You can screw on any sort of microphone you want. As you can see there, it's all completely flexible. So this is what I've got. Now, the one that I'm looking to replace this with is the Rode Boom. I think it's the PSA 1. This one. Can't find. Yeah, it's one of these. There's anyway. The Rode make one that's like a $100 one. You can see that these ones are a little bit more pricey. So yeah, I would go with a boom arm. So a desktop boom arm is probably your most convenient mic stand option if you're in a small space. Because the other thing is you can also attach it to something else. So I have this on the desk here, and when I bump the desk, you don't hear much through the microphone. You still hear a bit because it's still connected, but it's connected over there. The desktop stands, they get very vibrating, and they can really cause problems. So, and obviously having a large mic stand, if you're, on a boat or in a small studio space, probably not going to be ideal. All right. We'll keep scrolling on down, and I'll just see if we've got any questions. Yes, as Thomas says, please throw the word question in front. It'll just help me identify any of your questions. Like hairbrush microphone. Hello. That's cool. Yeah. Who hasn't grabbed a hairbrush and sung like a microphone? I write drum parts with a splash and china cymbal as well as a fourth tom. Is there any way to get a kit like that in GarageBand iOS? So no, but yes. So you can use any of the kit pieces in any of the kits in GarageBand, but you kind of need to do a bit of a hybrid approach. So if you go in Songtember, when we talked about drums there, we talked about this method, but what you would basically need to do is have multiple drum tracks with the different kit pieces that you need. So for instance, when Jade Star created the drum track for my Songtember song, I'll just jump over here and we'll show this. So if we go to my Songtember song here, I'll show you what I mean. So we'll go here to the last version of this. And what you'll notice is that with our drums down the bottom here, they are separated out onto each individual track. Now, when Jade recorded these, she just set a drum track and played in the drums. And then every crash and every ride was just the crash or the ride. But what you'll notice here is that we've got crash 1 and crash 2. So what Jade actually did is she separated out some of the crashes and put them onto a separate track. So to do that, all you need to do is duplicate that track, put it here, and then just remove some from one and remove some from the others. And what you're left with is two different crash sounds. Now, you can see here, well, you can't really see that well, but these are actually two different kits. So this one here is the Bluebird kit. So that's the crash cymbal from the Bluebird kit being used there. And this crash here is the crash from the Motown Revisited kit. So what that means is that when we're playing along with these, we'll just solo these two tracks in a section where we've got two different crashes, take a listen to what it's doing here. So there's the crash. Two crashes, right? And I've even got one pan right and one pan left. So you can put them in different locations. And you can basically create your own custom kit by doing that. Now, does it require a lot of effort? Yeah, kind of. But does it sound cool at the end when you can have a drum sound that sounds as full as this just using your virtual drums because of the talent of Jade Star? right? And then down in this section, crash on the other side. See the two crashes? So yeah, if you find kits that have the different pieces you want, you can kind of Frankenstein together your own custom kit. So that's the that's my recommendation. That's the way to get that done in GarageBand. There are also other apps, and I know that Jade and maybe Thomas Christ here can recommend those. There's like Drumagog. There's I'm blanking on them now, but there's a bunch of cool EG Pulse. There's a bunch of different cool drum and sample based apps that you can bring in your own samples and do cool things. But if you're looking for the easiest way in GarageBand, that's the way to do it. Thank you, Mark. Appreciate that, my friend. Yes, if you are getting some value, some thumb love is always fun. Yeah, throw some thumb love our way if you're getting some value, if you're having some fun here today. And if you've got any questions, again, please throw the word question in front of your question, because I'm going to have to do some quick scrolling down through here to see if we can answer anything. Solrak. If I stream a live streaming video on Facebook and I plug in my interface with stereo, would it come up stereo for the viewers? Yes, Facebook is a bit weird. Depending, I think if you go through Facebook and audio interfaces don't play nicely. The reason I use Restream today or StreamYard is that it will send, if you use a third party and send a stereo stream to Facebook, it'll stream stereo. So I use that for things like Your Music Live, for my live perform, for my happy hours. They're in stereo because I'm coming through StreamYard and that supports stereo. I'm pretty sure from my experience, if you just use the Facebook Live app, it doesn't support stereo. And to be honest, it's super clunky with audio interfaces in general. It tends to sort of keep trying to go back to the internal mic, and I've had no ends of problems. So short answer, yes, but I would use something like a StreamYard or Restream. Are any of those free? The drum plugins? No, the most of the ones outside of GarageBand are paid plugins, so I would definitely use that. All right. So yeah, and whatever drum kits you use, you can do the same thing with. What plugins do you use for recording on an iPhone? To be honest, I use a lot of stock plugins. If you were hanging out again, if you were here in Songtember when we did a whole song in a month challenge, you would have seen that I used almost exclusively plugins that are right here in GarageBand. So there's a lot to explore in here and a lot you can use. So the key plugins that I use, key plugins that I use, we'll just unsolo all these, on things like vocals and guitars and drums, is I use reverb, I use delay, I use compression, I use some EQ as well, and the only sort of slightly out there plugins I'll use is a bit of distortion. So LRC5 or LRC7 for EQ on there. On my vocals, I use a little bit of overdrive on them because I think that just gives a little bit of grit that you sometimes need in a vocal that sounds too clean. But outside of that, there's not a real whole lot going on. Oh, and wider. Wider is one of my favorite plugins because it can just give your mix a little bit more stereo space. When you've got a mix that's sounding a bit too mono, a bit too boring, straight up the middle, then wider can be a good one. So that's really, to be honest, if I was starting out, and they're free, so I would get wider, I would get LRC5 and LRC7, which are both EQ plugins, and yeah, apart from that, stock plugins all the way. That's my main game there. Uh, maybe comment. Maybe it can be a new video idea: how to make live music without audio interface using GarageBand from mobile phone or iPad. Yeah, so I've done similar sorts of things to that, but I do need to do a lot more. I'm getting more questions about the live space and how to use your rig basically to play live. I tend to go pretty acoustic when I play live, but what I want to do is start integrating my iPad. If you saw my happy hour on the weekend, you would have seen that I've sung along to a backing track, and I want to actually show folks, what gear do you need to use to be able to do things like that. To be honest, the easiest way I've found is to have a mixer. So to send from an iPhone or an iPad into a mixer and then send from that mixer out to whatever you're streaming with. Without a mixer, it does get a little bit clunky, to be honest, which is probably why I've never explored it, because it's a bit tricky. Question. I'm starting a talk box a cappella. How many layers should I do? 73. No. Good a cappella. I mean, 4-part harmony is still pretty good. The more you can put in there, the better, but don't overdo it. I tend to find about between 6 and 8 voices for a cappella is kind of good. Yeah, right about that mark. That's what I'd say. All right, I'm going to pause there and just jump in and grab another bit of gear here. There you go. eventually to a float. Thank you. So that was for the boom arm. I'm literally online to buy this stuff when I saw you live. Yeah, there you go. So you get to come in and ask a question. Question from Jalen. This is an easy one. Is Pete short for Peter? I might be answering my own question here. Sure is. So yes, my legally binding name when I'm sued in the future will be Peter Johns. And it's kind of weird because when I release music, I have to put artist name Pete Johns, and then in the songwriter name, I have to actually put Peter Johns because, and this is a good clue for you, for anyone out there, don't use an artist name as your songwriter name, because if in the very slim chance that you are ever needing to defend your rights and prove that you are indeed the owner of a copyright or the songwriter, guess what? You'll need to actually have that. You'll need to have your actual legal name as the name you have there. Should we talk microphones? Let's talk microphones, shall we? All right, microphones. So, why did I say earlier that I've been using, and you can see it there, but you can also see it here. Why did I say that I've been using a dynamic microphone a lot more lately, especially in my mobile recordings? Well, it's because I record in this space. And you would be hearing, even though this microphone is pretty good, it's a condenser mic. It's a handheld condenser, which is a bit weird. Most of your condensers are like the side-facing ones, like the AT2020s and things like that. This one's a handheld condenser mic. I use this for live streaming because it just picks up a little bit more sound. It's a little bit more forgiving in terms of if I move myself around here, it's not quite as directional. Something like this, you have to be right on it. You have to be right in front of it and talking directly into it. But for my vocals, because I've been doing a lot more rocky kind of songs and a lot less sort of laid back singer-songwriter stuff lately, a dynamic mic can be a lot better for that. Reason being is that it rejects a lot of noise. So it's got a cardioid pattern. So this one's a supercardioid, in fact. So the cardioid pattern is like that heart-shaped pattern. So it means that it rejects the noise behind and it really enhances what's directly in front of it. So that can be really good. If you're in a noisier environment, you can get right up on it. And again, if you're getting right up on it, you want yourself at least a fuzzy wuzzy or a pop filter. So you do want to avoid those popping Ps by having some sort of fuzzy or some sort of pop filter on that. So for instance, in my song Work in Progress, I just grabbed this one and I sung directly into this. The other cool thing is that if you're singing a rock song and you're getting into it, you can just go handheld because these are designed to be handheld. You won't get a lot of mic noise. You can go handheld and really just rip into that vocal. And if you're moving your head around, as long as your mic stays at the same position, you won't get that varying in and out. A lot of people, when they first start recording, they'll get a condenser mic. And look, there's nothing really wrong with these sort of microphones, except there is. But the microphones that people do, if you go to Amazon and you just type in microphone, let's just try this as a test, shall we? We type microphone into Amazon. I'm almost guaranteeing you that these recommended ones up the top here, yes, these are all these ones. So they're all these packages you get that look really good at the time. Like you're like, wow, a microphone and a stand and everything. This one here comes up everywhere. Like this is a USB microphone with a pop filter and a stand and everything. Look, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not going to be the same quality as the stuff we're talking about here today. And the other issue with that is that it comes with a setup like this. So a setup like that's great if you're broadcasting because you're just talking into the microphone, you're behind the pop filter. But I don't know about you, but when I'm singing rock and roll, I want to be moving around. I want to be getting into it. So just having a static microphone stand with that in front of it is not cool. And that's why these boom arms are cool because you kind of get the best of both worlds. You can grab the boom arm here, and as long as you're a bit careful, you can kind of rock out. You can Freddie Mercury it up and like move around with your mic stand. So I say all that to say a dynamic microphone is a good option. Now, we'll jump over a little bit here because while we're talking microphones aren't really mobile or desktop based because you can use either with either. And in my desktop setup, I talk about this one. And this one is the AT2020. So this is the Audio-Technica AT2020. Again, about $100 microphone, gets rave reviews. This one is a condenser mic. So what's the difference? Well, a condenser requires phantom power. So that's that 48 volt or that phantom power button that you'll have on your mixer or your interface. And almost all mixers and interfaces have that. So you should be fine with that. But what a condenser microphone does, the main difference is that it's going to be a lot more sensitive. It's going to pick up a lot more sound. And that means it's going to be good if you're recording a really quiet instrument or if you're a vocalist that has a quieter voice, not like loudmouth John's over here, then a condenser mic can be really good. The downside of that is that it picks up a lot more noise. Because it's got that higher sensitivity and it's powered, it's picking up a lot more noise. Does mean you can get further away from it and it's still going to pick it up, as opposed to this, that it's going to go vroom, straight away. But it also means that you're going to, if you've got background noise, you've got echoes, if you've got reflections, they're going to be picked up in this thing a lot more. But I wanted to put it out here because whether you decide to go with a dynamic or a condenser is kind of up to you. In a perfect world, you buy one of each. If you've got $200 burning a hole in your pocket, grab the AKG D5, grab the Audio-Technica AT2020, and you'll have the best of both worlds. If you want to record something quieter, you grab your condenser mic, you plug it in, you stick it in front, and you're good to go. You've got a loud signal, you want to record a guitar cab or a guitar amp, you want to record a loud rock or metal vocal, you grab your dynamic. And you can, of course, there's other ones. So there's the Samson CO1, that's another good condenser mic. There's the MXL 550s and 990s. They're great condensers. And the same with this. The Shure SM57 or SM58 does basically the same thing as this. They're all a cardioid dynamic mic. I just happen to like this one because I've had it for ages. It does a great job. I use this live. I use this in the studio. And yeah, it's like nothing will destroy this. It is so solid. It's chunky, it's heavy, it's solid, and it's well made because it's made by AKG. So that's your microphones. And we're going to jump back over to the chat here because I'm way, way behind. So I'm literally going to have to look for the word question as I go through here. So I know that many of you may have had other questions. If you, there you go. There's the video from Jade about the drums. I'm creating drums for my song. So you can go and check that one out. That was where Jade actually created the songs. Someone was asking about noise reduction. Yeah, Bruce Free is the plugin for noise reduction. If you do have noisy mixes, say you do record a microphone and it's a great take, except there's a bit of background noise, Bruce Free, BRUSFRI, is a plugin from Clevegrand, and it does a ridiculously good job. All right, I'm going to scroll down here. Like I say, I'm just going to catch up and look for the word question. Digistix 2, sorry, is a good one from that Jade's got a suggestion there. It's the best way to import multiple drum parts into GarageBand. There you go. So you go with that one. I'm just going to scroll down and look for the word question, and I can only really stop on the questions because we've got too many. We got too many comments here for me to actually catch up on that. So thank you to Thomas, thank you to Jade for helping answer some of the questions while I've been doing other things. But we're just going to scroll on down here. Piano Man question: I use Auto-Tune Mobile. When I use it in GarageBand, it creates more static. Is there a way? I don't know the rest of that question. I haven't used Auto-Tune. I would just use GarageBand's pitch control, to be honest. That's what I've found works really well. So, yeah, I've not used the Auto-Tune app in iOS, but I haven't heard great things about it. So, go with that. Question, how do I get more GarageBand? How do I add more GarageBand sounds in GarageBand for free? Good question. Great question, in fact. So there are two ways to add more sounds in GarageBand for free. The obvious way that you're probably already aware of is to go to your sound library and download any of the additional packs. So if we come over here and you go to the sound library here in GarageBand, you'll see that we've got a heap of different packs. So you've got a whole bunch of packs with different sounds, different alchemy patches, different drum kits, a whole bunch of stuff. So make sure you first go and explore them because that'll keep you easy for months, literally, because there's so much stuff in there. The other way that you can do is to actually import a sound, and I've got videos showing how to do this. All you need to do is search my name, Pete Johns, import GarageBand, or Pete Johns downloads GarageBand. There's a heap of videos that I show this, but in the simplest form, go anywhere in Safari. Freesound.org is a great place. So Freesound, freesound.org is a great place, and download some loops, some samples, whatever you want. Here's one I prepared earlier. So you can, I got a cowbell or a gong there for some reason. We've got this one here. Oh, that one. Oh, that's a 32-bit format and can't be used. All right. Here's some background noise. So yeah, so you can actually download those, and then to bring them into GarageBand, it's simply a matter of grabbing them, dragging them, dropping them, and there you go. You sound straight in there. So yeah, it's very easy to get additional sounds and to put them here into GarageBand. And then when you import them, it pops them here in your GarageBand file transfer folder. So the other tip that I always tell folks is that if you've got multiple files that you want to bring in, go to your Files app here, and on my iPad, GarageBand for iOS, this folder here, this is where all the imported files are stored. So if you want to bring in, say, 10 different samples, just bring them all in here. The sad thing is it doesn't support folders. So you can't actually bring in a folder here and have that in here, but you can bring in individual samples and then use them in your GarageBand projects. So hopefully that helps you out. And yeah, freesound.org, I'm telling you, it's a great place. There's a heap of good sounds. One final thing on that, do check the copyright. So there's different types of copyright when it comes to sound. Make sure you're using something that's Creative Commons. And if it has attribution, you need to make sure if you release your song that you give that person that created that sound credit. So you attribute it to them. And if it says for non-commercial use, don't use it commercially because you can get yourself into some pretty hot water. It's Bubba. Hello, my friend. Have not seen you around for a while. Hope you are doing well. Bubba is one of my wonderful patrons. And if you're digging on this show and you like this sort of advice and you like the community that we got going on over here, let me tell you, we do some additional live streams with just our patrons. We had a great one yesterday where my patrons helped me test out this setup, and we had a heck of a lot of fun. So if you want more of this, if you're like, why don't you do this every day, Johns? Well, I kind of do. I do it at least a couple of times a week, but we do it with our patrons over at patreon.com/Pete Johns. Hello to the metal head hippie boom. I hope you are doing well, my friend. We're going to keep scrolling down. I'm just going to look for the word question again because I need to really focus in here because it's wonderful. I love getting all the questions, but I just need to make sure that we get to as much of the content as we can. We've got an hour to go. Still got plenty of time. We'll be fine. Question from Hairbrush Microphone. Hairbrush Microphone. Another one for you. Do you notice a clear difference in the raw input quality from using an iRig HDL Pro versus a dedicated interface? I really don't. It's a great question, and I think I need to test it out. So it's actually on my list of videos to do. So the reason that the Steinberg is over there is that I really want to do I don't like A/B testing because it's also subjective, but I want to do some sort of testing of just grabbing and recording the exact same part with the same microphone in the iRig Pro Duo and in the Steinberg UR22C and seeing if there's any major difference. My opinion, just based on the experience, so from recording my last song using the Steinberg and my latest song using the iRig, no different. And like the audio quality in Work in Progress of the vocals is, in my opinion, pristine. And it helped out my vocals. The vocals themselves were a little dodgy in parts, but the actual quality, the noise floor in there and the quality of that, I mean, it's 44.1 24-bit audio. It's digital. So it's really just doing the conversion job. But in terms of the preamps in it, which is the main part of an interface, when you're comparing two interfaces, the Yamaha D pre's are really good in the Steinberg, but the iRig, the pre's in the iRig Pro IO and Pro Duo are really good. If you used early iRigs and you remember them being really noisy, they kind of were. But IK Multimedia have done a great job. And yet, look, full disclosure, IK sent me the iRig Pro Duo, and they haven't sponsored anything, but they have sent me some gear to check out. So, but yeah, for me, I think it's about on par to the point where now I recommend if you're going mobile, go the iRig Pro Duo because it just is so much more convenient just to be able to plug things in. We'll just continue down here. Apologies if I do miss any questions. We'll be around a bit later. All right, Bubba's got a question, which is when it's convenient. IAA selection of Lumbeat soft drummer locking up in GB. Have reset, reloaded, etc., but it locks up every time. Running iOS 15.0.1 ideas. So I'm assuming it wasn't locking up previously. It may be. I know there have been some reports of some of these. I would, I mean, someone like Jade Starr's probably checking out this sort of stuff a lot more than I am in terms of the app stuff, so she may have an opinion on this. But I have heard reports of Interap Audio particularly, but a few audio unit plugins as well, not functioning with that. You can obviously contact the developer and ask them if they know anything, but I have heard that 15.1 is a lot more stable and is in its beta stage at the moment. So hopefully 15.1, when that arrives, will improve and will fix some of this stuff. But not something I use, so I don't have the answer. But that's the beauty of this. There'll be other people here that may have the answer or may be able to have something else. Metalhead hippie. Studio Live today. That's me. Is digital the new way? IRs and such as far as live and home studio recording. Yeah. So IRs in terms of if you're talking impulse responses, in terms of using real gear and getting real rooms. I mean, it comes down to practicality. I don't think it really depends, because I don't think that the big bands are ever going to replace the sound of a real Marshall and a quad stack, like with 4 microphones miking it up with a professional studio engineer in $1 million studio. Like, a Metallica going to just replace all their guitar sounds with impulse responses instead of using the real thing? Probably not. But for modern artists that don't have the access or the gear or the money, is it a great way to do it? Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of like most things in society at the moment, I think, Jeff, that I think for the next 20 years, there'll be a lot of people that did it the old way until those people kind of are no longer in the industry. And then I think it's going to morph and it's going to change. So a bit like tape. It's like tape versus digital. There's still a few people that are clinging to recording on actual tape. For anyone who's actually recorded to tape versus digital, wow, I have zero nostalgia for tape, because think about how you cut a piece out or you do an overdub, and then think about how hard that is to actually cut physical tape or to rewind and record over the top of an actual piece of tape. Yeah, you got one shot. You get it right or you don't. And if you don't get it right, you got to rewind and record over it again. There's no undo. There's no copy paste. There's no editing. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I could probably talk for an hour on that, Jeff, and maybe we will on a future Creator Town Hall. We'll chat more about that. Just scrolling down again, just looking for the word question. Question from Piano Man: how do you get 32-bit audio in GarageBand? This is my last question. That's fine. We are here. It's a Q&A. The more questions, the merrier. I just want to make sure that I do get to as many of them as I can. You can't. Short version is you can't. So if you do have 32-bit audio, you'll need to convert it to 24-bit audio to use it. And in fact, didn't we have a piece of 32-bit audio? We might be able to do a practical example of this one here, because what was that clip that we tried to put in that's told us it was 32-bit that wasn't going to work? Let's come in here. I think it was this one, wasn't it? Yeah, this audio file. So the one that starts 48321, we'll just see if we can drag it in. Yeah, look, this track does not accept audio. Oh, that's an FX track. Oh, so it has popped it in here. Oh, that's weird. So it wouldn't play it back here, but it looks like it converts it on the fly, because here it's not going to preview it, can't be used, but it's obviously just converted it down here. And now let's just make sure it's actually going to play this audio. Yeah, so that's weird. I didn't know that, because that used to not happen, but perhaps GarageBand has been updated quietly on the inside to auto convert that, which is kind of cool. So when you throw a 32-bit file at GarageBand, apparently now it just brings it on in. What I was going to say is, if it didn't, what you could do is actually go over to Audio Share and convert it. So if I went to Audio Share here and we bring it in, so we'll just grab the file. We'll go to the pick a file, any file. And what was it? Was this one here, the 428. So we bring this one in here. There it is. And you can see over here, 32-bit 44.1, we could actually just convert this. So if you're getting a file that's not working because it's 32-bit, just come in here, convert it, stereo, 192, 42K, and this should, yeah, we can convert. We can change the file type here, can't we? I thought we had the ability to change the bit rate here. Maybe we don't. What am I thinking of then? Let's just convert it and see if it converts. Yep. Okay. Oh, because I did. Sorry. I was like, why is that doing that? The reason was that I had it converting to a compressed file. Let's try that again. This time, no, that's why we didn't have a WAV file. There we go. So 24-bit stereo WAV 44. That's better. So we'll save that one out. And there you go. So now we've changed it into a 24-bit. So if we bring this version back into GarageBand, we should even be able to preview it. We won't even get that error. So if we come here and we browse and we jump over to our audio share folder, the converted version here, oh, that's the other one. This one. This is the converted version. We'll grab this one and it should pop it straight under here. There it is now. Oh, that's the 32-bit version. There you go. So it does. It lets you preview it. So that's the fix. If you've ever got any audio that you can't use in GarageBand, grab your audio share. That's why audio share is kind of just it's the shizzle. You need to have audio share on your device, because it just does everything, and it does it really easily. Yes, it's a paid app, and I know some people don't like paid apps, but man, you get what you pay for. And if you want to convert audio, then that's the way to go. All right, we've got lots of other conversations going on. Hello, Kim Harden Hudson. No, we are here for another nearly hour, my friend, so you have not missed it all. We're continuing on. Let's keep scrolling down. Hello to Gary Hubs, who's here as well. The whole gang's together. Thank you to the usual suspects, and thanks for the new folks. If you are new, again, if you're having fun, thumbs up always helps. Helps me, helps you, helps everyone. And share this video too. If you've got other people in your lives that are into home recording and mobile recording, share this, because if you miss this one and you missed your chance to ask your question, comments below. Jump down to the comments and ask your question, because I'm always down there and I'm always asking questions. Like answering questions like this one from Joe. I'm getting a low signal when recording acoustic guitar, even though my gain is at 5 and I'm 12 inches from the mic. It's a condenser. Help. What are you using in terms of the interface? That would be the other thing, the preamp that you're using, because different preamps have different levels of gain, and some cheaper interfaces, the problem is they don't have enough gain going through, and you have to turn them up quite loud, and you introduce a lot of noise floor to your signal if you're trying to record something. So, yeah, it looks like you're doing everything right there, but just, yeah, let us know what exact mic you're using and what exact mic input, so interface, and we may be able to provide some more advice. If you could add one new feature to GarageBand iOS but had to remove one feature, what would you sacrifice? I would sacrifice the FX because I simply don't use it for a master volume track. So because I use the FX track only for master volume, I use a hack where you use the FX track's EQ and use the gain slider to turn your master volume up and down. I would say get rid of that. Sorry, DJs, sorry, remixers, but I don't find the FX appealing. I don't use it for anything for my sort of music, and I would add in that. Now, I don't think people would be too happy with that because a lot of people really like the FX feature, and I'd say the same about live loops, but a lot of people really like that. So if I had to sacrifice one other feature, inter-app audio. No, oh, I'm gonna get massacred. No, no, I would do that. I would swap FX. There you go. Scrolling down. I think I mentioned this before, but my SM seems to work without phantom power. Yeah, so SM58s are dynamics. So SM58s are a dynamic mic, so they won't need you any phantom power. You'll be good to go. All right. Excuse me. We are caught up. So if you have asked a question and I haven't answered it, while we go through another couple of pieces of gear, then do put your question here in the chat and I will get to them, because we still got ourselves another about 50 minutes in the show here. So plenty of time. But we're going to jump back over here because we need to talk. You and I need to have a little bit of a chat about MIDI keyboards, because we've had a few questions about MIDI keyboards. Sorry, Sion. Not the effects. Oh, not the effects. Yeah. Oh, sorry, SM57s and 58s, both dynamic mics, neither need phantom power. So, yeah, you're good to go. Don't need the phantom power. And that's why they're good if you're using them with like an amplifier or a mixer that doesn't have phantom power, SM57s and SM58s. It's why you see them in live gigs and on stages, because you don't have to worry about running that phantom power. Everything is just straight in, and then all your amplification is done straight in the desk. So that's why they're there. So let's talk about this. This is the M Audio Keystation Mark III. Look, it's $119 here at the moment. It's usually between $99 and $119. The reason that I like this and that I use this as my go-to recommended MIDI keyboard is it, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, it's the perfect balance of features, quality, and price. So again, it's about $100. You've got on the left there, you've got your ability to change your volume. You've got your standard pitch and modulation wheels. You've got the ability to turn octave up and down on there. You've then got 49 keys. Now they are touch sensitive. They are not weighted. So keep that in mind. If you want a weighted version, you need to up your game and get something like the 61 key or the 88 key versions, which are obviously going to cost you a little bit more. So keep that in mind as well. But it's just a really nice keyboard, a nice size and a nice feel for what you get. Around the back, if we can find the pictures. No, we can't. Around the back, there you go. You've got your standard USB. You've got your sustain pedal plug-in. It just does everything. Like I've tried a bunch of different keyboards, and this one is just the best balance and bang for your buck. Now let's just check, because at the moment it is a bit more expensive there. What has Sweetwater got it for? For my friends in the US, Sweetwater often have it a little cheaper. Oh, no, they don't. The exact same price. So sometimes you can get it on sale for $99. Hopefully, as we come into the October, November sales season, we'll start seeing some savings on some of this stuff. But $119 is still a pretty good price for this thing. And if you're thinking, hey, I want to dip my toes, I want to wet my beak in the world of MIDI keyboards, and I don't know if I really need one, check out the 25 key version of this one, because it is super cheap and it will give you an idea of what it can do. That's not the one. M audio. Let's just try the key station. Maybe they don't have it here at Sweetwater at the moment. There is a mini version, a 25 key version. Here it is, 32. That's why it's not a 25, it's a 32. Even better. So this little baby, look how cute is it? Yeah. So if you've never used a MIDI keyboard and you're like, look, I'm not a piano player, Pete, but I want to get into sort of maybe some drums, like programming some drums with a keyboard or playing some samples or some pads or some chords. Yeah, this little sucker, check it out. It's got the same sort of stuff, but in mini version. Doesn't have your pitch bend and your modulation wheels, but you've still got a sustain button there, and you've got the ability to change your octaves and your volume, and then you've just got 32 little keys. So yeah, it's not going to be great if you've got big chungus fingers like me. It's not the best thing in the world. I've got actually a Korg micro key, which is very similar to this, but it's actually a 49 key. Just uses the one little mini USB connector there. It's little, it's delightful. It's the M Audio key station, and it's only $60. Now, it says there, savings of $40. It's never been $99 in its life. Well, maybe it has. Maybe its street price originally was $99. It's been $59 for as long as I can remember. But it is a great buy. Sounds like the Home Shopping Network. Yeah, get in now, folks. Now, toll free, 1-800-SCAM. No, not at all. But it is. It's a great little piece of kit. So, yeah, as I mentioned before, I kind of alluded to it. Why would you want a MIDI keyboard in your setup here? Well, it's not essential because especially if you're on mobile, you've got your touch screen. And your touch screen is good enough for most people. But what you'll learn with the touch screen over time is it's super sensitive. It's really hard to play multiple things. Your fingers will sometimes touch the wrong key, one side or the other. So it can actually be really handy to have a physical keyboard to actually play in your parts. So yeah, and the sweet spot's the 49 key. If you want the full 88 key, you can go that 61, 49, 32, 25. So there's a bunch of different ones. The other ones that a lot of people like are the Akai. So there's a bunch of different Akai MIDI keyboards, or Akai, if you want to say it that way. So they make things like the MPK Mini, and they make them in funky shapes and sizes like this. So the reason I don't recommend this for folks like me is that it has the different drum pads and it has the different pots here. Now, if you're using like Ableton or if you're using other software, FL Studio that takes advantage of stuff like that, by all means, grab yourself one of the Akai MPKs. As you can see, a lot of people love them, and they have the backwards black and white ones there. So yeah, they're really cool. But for GarageBand, you don't really need all of the bells and whistles, and to be honest, it doesn't really support a lot of bells and whistles. So that's where we're at with that. So we'll jump back over here. Frigsy says, definitely not a keyboard player, but I have the Alesis Q25. It's decent and has full-size keys. Yeah, and there's a whole bunch. So Alesis make good ones, Akai, M Audio. I'm missing a bunch, but yeah, there's a lot of different ones that do a good job. And yeah, that's always been $49 or $59. Yeah, for the little M Audio, it's never been $99. It's fine. I'll just see. We'll check in for some questions. Oh yeah, Novation. Novation are the other ones who make good stuff. Sion uses the Novation Launch Key Mark III because I wanted the keyboard with keys, drum pads, knobs, and sustain transport. Yeah, which is what like the other one is the Arturia. So the Arturia key step that we talked about before is the other option. If you're looking for more bells and whistles, so to speak, you may want to check out the Arturia key step. And don't forget that if you want to make any of these purchases and still support the channel, you can actually do that through the main link. So whatever you buy, it doesn't just have to be stuff on the gear guide. If you buy anything through that main link, so if you go to the Studio Live today gear guide here, and you're like, oh, I don't really want to buy Pete stuff, but I'm buying something else, and it doesn't even have to be music gear. You can just come in here and click through the link here. But obviously, the intended thing is that if you're buying music gear, you do it this way. But yeah, the Arturia. Well, where do we go now? Got to find the right spot now. Where were we at? I've completely lost where we were. We were searching on here, weren't we? No, I've lost it. Oh, there it is, right over there. Yeah, so the Arturia key step is another good option. Obviously, a lot more expensive. You're paying nearly 200 beans for this one, but this has all the programmability and functionality you could possibly think of. So it's got a whole lot more bells and substantially additional whistles as well. All right. Once again, if you do have questions, if you're joining us late in the piece here and you're jumping in and you got questions, just put the word question in front of your question. Just do a little bit of this business. And once again, if you are looking to buy any of the gear we talk about and you want advice on it, no problem. Studio Gear Guide is there for you. studiolivetoday.com/gear, and you can check it out there. All right. Yes, or you could get a real synthesizer. Really quickly, all these things that we're talking about here, these are MIDI keyboards. So these have zero built-in sounds. And that's something to keep in mind here, because if you are playing these, you are relying 100% on the software instruments on your phone, your iPad, your Mac, your PC. So you do need to have a DAW. You can't play them standalone. If you get yourself a regular digital piano or keyboard, you can do it as MIDI. So a lot of those also have MIDI to be able to connect up to your device and play your virtual instruments, but they also have their own sounds. Keep in mind, though, that if you want to play your own sounds, you can't do that via MIDI. MIDI is just sending data. It's just sending ones and zeros. It's saying you played a C at this velocity for this amount of time and with this amount of sustain. It's not sending any of the actual audio information, just data. If you want to send the audio, you need to actually output from either the line output or the headphone jack of the keyboard and put that into an audio interface. So that's where you'll need something like the audio interfaces that we talked about, the iRig Pro IO Duo, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, something that's got a 2-channel input, the Steinberg UR22C. You'll need something like that. All right, let's keep us moving on here, shall we? I've lost track of where I'm up to. We talked microphones, we talked keyboards. It's time to talk about some of the less glamorous but still super important stuff. Yeah, here it is. It's the 10 DAC. It's the powered USB hub. It's $20, and you just need to buy one. I don't say that about a lot of things, but this thing has been the hub of my mobile recording setup for forever. Now, there's other options that I'll show you in a moment, and there's other options over on the Gear Guide. But if you're starting out and you're just looking for the easiest, most effective, and reliable way to connect up your gear, get one of these. So this coupled with some sort of USB adapter, and I'm currently using this one. So this is what I have. I've got the Atola USB-C to USB adapter. So this plugs into my iPad, which opens up USB 3 ports. I then grab my 10 DAC powered USB hub. That plugs into my adapter. And guess what? I got me 4 powered USB ports. Now, you can get one device that does all of this, but you can see here that this is a pretty cost-effective way to do this, because you grab this for $20, you grab this for $17, and you're good. You're done. You're sorted. And the good thing is that if you have this one here, you can use this with your Mac or your PC. You can use this with your older iPhone or iPad that's got Lightning, as long as you have the Lightning to USB 3 adapter to plug into that. And it just means that you've always got power. This is so important because things like the MIDI keyboards, things like USB microphones, things like the iRig Pro Duo, they use a fair amount of power. If you just try to plug them into your device without a powered hub, they will do one of two things. They'll either not work because they'll say not enough power. They'll start draining too much power, which means that your battery life of your device is going to go really quickly, or they'll work for a little. This is probably the most frustrating. They'll work for a little bit until some other app grabs some power from the device, and then boom, it's gone. So I say all that to say, grab yourself a powered USB hub and some sort of adapter. And again, because most of the iPads now are running USB-C, you can use something like this Atola, which is what I've got set up right here. I've got the Atola plugged into the 10 DAC, and they're doing a really good job. Highly recommended. All right, we'll have a quick drink, and then we'll check for questions. There you go. Thomas Christ has the M Audio key station 61, and it's always worked well. Yeah, I kind of want the 61. That's got the weighted keys. They look good. Question, with the rise of subscription services, do you think Logic will ever get a Logic Plus version, or do you think GarageBand and Logic updates will remain free? Would you subscribe to a Plus? It's a really good question. As someone, me, who is about to dive into the world of GarageBand Mac and then to the world of Logic, yeah, it's interesting as to whether I'm not a fan of software subscription models. I think subscription models for services like music and video are good because you're constantly getting new and fresh content. And that makes sense. Like, I'll pay my $10, $15 Netflix and Apple Plus and Disney Plus subscriptions and Hulu and however many things I've got because it's constantly updating that content. With software, it's a bit different, especially software that only has very infrequent updates that don't really do much. Like, I mean, Logic and GarageBand have had significant updates, but nothing that you'd be like really happy. If you're paying $20 or $30 a month for a Logic Pro subscription, would you be really happy with how many updates you've had in the last couple of years? Probably not. Do I think Apple are likely to do it? Yeah, 100%. Because Apple have shown that they want more and more subscriptions. I'm now an Apple One member, which means I have Apple TV, Apple Music, Apple Games, which I don't actually use, Apple iCloud storage, Apple Fitness. And you can tell I'm doing a lot with that. So I have all of those services. I I've been playing around with the idea that and back when we thought that maybe we'd get Final Cut and Logic on an iPad in iOS, I thought, yeah, I imagine if there's a $10 Pro bundle or that you could add, or $20 Pro bundle that you could add to your Apple One subscription. And do I think that that's possible for say Logic or Final Cut? I think they might do that, and we might see it sooner rather than later. Because next month in October, we're seeing another Apple event. It's probably going to be Macs. It's probably going to be Mac Pros or MacBook Pros. And they're probably going to talk about some sort of subscription model stuff. And if they came out with a $20 Pro subscription that gives you Final Cut Pro and Logic Pro and what's the other one? Xcode? Maybe. Interesting question. Good thought provoker there for sure. All right. So where were we up to? We're talking about our gear. Let's have some fun here now. Someone asked a question earlier about monitor speakers versus headphones, and I am a bit controversial here because I think that headphones in the mobile and the home studio do a pretty darn good job these days. I'm not walking around going, oh no, that person's mix is fine, except they probably mixed it on headphones. I don't really care where they mixed it, but there is something to be said for monitor speakers. Here's the thing though. If you are looking for monitor speakers and you want some entry level monitor speakers, go buy these. Go buy these now. Don't run. What is it? Run, don't walk into your Sweetwater or your Amazon or your virtual stores and pick these up. These are the PreSonus Iris 3.5. Now, I won't wax lyrical about these for too long because I've done 2 entire videos. I did a first look and then I did a full review. So if you want to check out those, you can search Pete Johns PreSonus and you'll find both of those videos. So I go through all the details of these. But why are these good? They're $100. Now, when I first saw these, I thought $100 is not expensive enough for monitor speakers. Now, hear me out here. I don't mean that more expensive is better, but I've seen $100 pairs of monitor speakers before. And the reason I bought originally the KRK Rocket 4 speakers is that they were about $200 and something each. So I paid $450, I think, for a set of KRK Rockets. And then when I saw these for 100, I'm like, no. They can't possibly have anywhere near the quality. Guess what? Spoiler alert, they do. And don't just take my word for it. Check that out. Sweetwater 5-star review. Basically, no one has anything but a 4 or 5-star review of these things. I'm not the only one sort of singing the praises. I know that Mark here, one of our patrons, uses them. I know a lot of other folks that are using these and loving them. Why do I like them? You got your volume and your power right there on the front, as well as aux in and headphone jack, which is super handy. It comes with all the cables and everything you need to get up and running. But here's where it goes pretty cool. You've got balanced and unbalanced input. You've got the ability to adjust your acoustic tuning of your highs and your lows, which is unheard of in budget speakers. And yes, you do have the speaker here where only one's powered. And again, I looked down my nose on that until I plugged them in and listened to them. And they sound friggin' amazing. Now, they are reference monitors and proximity monitors, which means that they're going to pump out a reasonable sound, but you're not getting epic bass out of these things. Like if you love yourself some bass, yeah, you're not going to get a whole lot of bass out of these, but that's not what they're for. They're designed for you to be able to reference your mixes and monitor your mixes, and they do a bloody good job of it. So it's made it really easy, and I literally went out and bought these because even though I had monitor speakers, I didn't need monitor speakers. I went out and bought these. I'm like, I got to test these. I got to see what all the hype is about. And I tested them, and guess what? Guess what is sitting gathering dust on the shelf in my storage room there? My KRK Rockets. These things are plugged in right here. They're part of my studio. They do a great job. So if you are in the market for monitor speakers, grab these. Now, you might be saying, well, what if I need a bigger speaker? No problem. They do them in different sizes. So if we go back to the gear guide here, we'll go through to the Amazon one because the Amazon link makes it easier to see the different sizes. So you can get the 3.5s. You can get the 3.5s with a sub. So if you desperately want a little bit more bass, you can go with something like that. You can go the 4.5s, which are obviously larger. You can go the 5s. You can go the 7s, you can go the 8s. So there's a whole bunch of the Iris range has basically got something for everyone. So you can go everything from like 3.5 up to 8-inch speakers. And again, the 8-inch ones are only $260 for a pair of 8-inch speakers. And these things, again, have all the same features and then some. So this time you're getting 2 individual powered speakers, and they've got all the connections on the back of each speaker. This one's even got XLR, for goodness sake, which would actually be handy for me to have something like that, because I've got XLR outputs on my Zoom LiveTrak, and it would be great to go XLR to XLR. But yeah, it's fine. XLR and TRS are exactly the same. Speaking of which, I'll pause here to say that if you are looking for cables, whoop, we've typed in the wrong thing over here. Hang on. Studio Live today. If you want, because all of my gear guides, obviously we've got all the gear here, but you need to plug your gear into your other gear. If you go to studiolivetoday.com/cables, you can check out my cable guide. No, not Cable Guy, not the terrible Jim Carrey movie, Cable Guide. So here you can jump in here, you can look at my complete video about cables. Sweetwater's Cable Finder is good. You can shop for cables in your country, and then I've broken it down by the different things you may want to connect and the different options that you'll need there for the different cables. So this is a handy reference tool for you to jump in and find out what cable you need to plug your stuff into your other stuff. So hopefully that can help folks out as well. Yes, and some of those have Bluetooth. Exactly. Gregory O'Sullivan says I got the Bluetooth version. There is, I think the Bluetooth version are an extra $30. And they have the added bonus of, if you just walk back into your studio, say you're out creating on your iPad or your iPhone, you can literally walk into your studio, you can go brook and just send it onto Bluetooth. You don't even have to grab yourself a plug, and you can plug straight out into your speakers without a plug. It's very, very cool. Solrak says, Pete, are you doing another song where everyone is going to come out singing or recording an instrument soon? Possibly. I must admit, so we did that. If for those that are newer to the channel, we did that in September in our Songtember challenge. We got the Studio Live today, the work in progress choir. So we had a bunch of people that actually recorded their own vocals. We did a big gang vocal. I am considering what we do in the future. I don't know. Not really sure what we're going to do with that. But by the way, thank you. Solrak did actually record some lead guitar parts. I just finished doing my final mix, so they didn't make it into the final mix. But I do appreciate that Solrak recorded some cool lead guitar licks for that song. So yeah, we'll see how we go in the coming months. And there you go. Thomas has put the cable guide there for you to check out if you would like to. Let's continue on. So see where we're up to. We looked at monitor speakers. All right. Where are my guitarists at? Those that are here live or that are here in the chat, what is your favorite guitar? What is your go-to guitar? I know that many of you may have 1 guitar, 2 guitars, 7 guitars. What do you walk to and pick up? What's your spirit animal when it comes to guitars? And if you're watching on the replay, don't fret. See what I did there? Don't fret. You can let us know your guitar of choice in the chat, in the comments as well. My guitar of choice, when I need to go and pick one up, is Mark. Mark Taylor is my Taylor, and it is the Taylor 110E acoustic electric guitar, natural Sitka spruce. This is the guitar that I have. There it is. That's what it looks like. It is a delight to play. It is an affordable but high-end guitar. It's got the Taylor expression system in there that sounds amazing. If you've seen or heard any of my happy hours, I just plug this sucker straight into my mixing board and play straight through, and it always sounds good. It punches above its weight. Just your single 9-volt battery in the bottom there. It is just a delight to play, a delight. And it comes with this case. I love the case that it comes with. This one here is great. It's a backpack case, lots of places to store. And even though it's a soft case, it's got kind of like hardened corners and bits there. So it is keeping your guitar snug and secure. So there it is there. But guess what? Here it is here. Yeah. This is it in the flesh. So this is my Taylor 110E. I've had it for about 4 years now. When I first started doing this channel seriously, one of the things I said is, if I'm going to be serious, I need a serious guitar, and I've always wanted a Taylor. And yes, I bought the cheapest Taylor I could find. So I actually got a really good deal on this. It was, I think, I got it for $1,050, which is good for Australian dollars because it's 800 US right now. So 1,050 Australian, that's about a $300 discount. So. And it is just it's a thing of beauty that I love. And even though I'm considering buying a new guitar, and it'll probably be another Taylor, something like a 2 or a 3 series in the future, I just don't have the compelling need to. There's other things I need before I need a new guitar because I just love my Taylor. All right, let's see what you folks have. Let's see what you like. What you like to play, or all the guitar folks are coming out and letting me know. So Clayton Von Kluge, the Randy Rhodes Jackson V, very cool. Phil Gone goes with his Strat. Randy's rocking a Telecaster. Gary says, I only have one guitar. Well, I guess you're playing that. I only have one. It's a Strat, and I love it. Can't go wrong with a Strat. I probably want a Telly. I think that's the next. I don't own a Strat, but I probably want a Telly because I've never owned a Telly. Solrack says my Fender Electric. Sion says I use an Ibanez brand. Didn't plan it. It just happened. That happens sometimes. I have some guitars I didn't plan. I just got them. Hairbrush microphone. I have a PRS-CE American-made 24 purple. Wow. Lucky to have my dream guitar. I also have a PRS Angelus acoustic. There you go. Very nice. Have a bass and an electro acoustic. Very cool. Thomas Christ has a blue Jackson Dinky with dual humbuckers. Nice. Nice one indeed. Good stuff. And Russ has an iPad and a cousin. So you don't need to, Russ. You got a cousin who plays epic guitars. What does your cousin play? Mark has to go with the Les Paul. Yeah, I do love my Les Paul. I have the Epiphone Les Paul. I'm not rich enough to go the full Monty. Acoustic. Oh, you got a Takamine, or is it Takamine? I've never known how to say that. Yeah, I recorded Dirty Money on a Harley Benton SC one. Very, very cool. Barry Glenn has a 70s Gibson J50, which Joe used to own, but it's given to me and I love it. Also have a Taylor 410. Yeah, Taylor 410. Barry, convinced me why I should buy a Taylor 410 because they are nice. Randy's got a Martin Cutaway. Whew. Yeah. BC Jade Star, BC Rich Bango. Oh, yeah. Bubba has 10 guitars. Yes. And 3 basses. Nice. You have it all. What would you go with, Bubba? What's your favorite to pick up? What's the one that you pick up and play if you had to reach for one right now? What do you pick up and play? Clayton says I want either a Telly, a hollow body ES335, or a Strat, or an acoustic Taylor, or a Martin. Yeah, you're not picky. Whatever you got. I think it's Takamine. Is that what it is? Takamine? Yeah, probably. I've never heard it said. I've just seen it written down. All right, let's continue on here because we've done all the mobile gear, and it'll be a lot quicker to go through the. Actually, no, there's a couple more pieces of kit. Okay, 2 final pieces of kit for the mobile setup just to complete the whole picture. Hang on, the 410 is all solid wood and easy to play. There you go. Maybe I need to buy one. Let's price one here in Australia real quick, just because we've got a bit of time. So if I go to, I'll go to Derringer's, which is my music store of choice here in Adelaide, and see, do they? Because I think they sell Taylor. Whoop, we'll just find it. If I rock up next week with a Taylor 410, it's Barry's fault. Just so you all know. Let's search it out here. Come on, Taylor. All right, so they got the Taylor 414 CE. That's the Grand Auditorium. All right, it's only $3,300 only. Anyone else want to become a patron? Please become a patron of the channel and help Pete get a Taylor 4 series. There you go. Look at that. I reckon I could get that for what, about 2.7, 2.6? What a stretch. I don't know. Maybe. Because that's obviously their sticker price, but you'll always get a better deal than that. Oh man, maybe I'm going to go guitar shopping. I do have the afternoon off. Look out! All right, let's go back to reality, shall we? Because we're going to get way off track. Or maybe I should buy a Martin guitar and search. Is it Martin or Maton? Which one's the Australian one? So you can tell I know my guitars not that well. So what else do I recommend here for my mobile setup? Well, because I have the iPad Pro, I bought myself a $450 keyboard. Yes, it costs $450 here in Australia. It's only about $250 in the US. I didn't want to buy the Magic Keyboard. I railed against the Magic Keyboard. When Jade Star told me how good the Magic Keyboard was, I said, poof, pish posh. I don't want no Magic Keyboard. And then I bought the Magic Keyboard and I love it. I hate that I love it, but I love it. It just having everything, having the whole keyboard there and the trackpad there right here in front of me on my iPad it just makes life so much better. And it's a quality of life thing. And then when I'm on the go, to be able to just fold it down and just throw it in my bag, and it's already protected, and I have everything with me and ready to go. It's kind of ridiculous. So, yeah, is it for everyone? Does everyone need to go out and buy a Magic Keyboard? No, but if you use your iPad Pro and you use it a lot, it's just so cool. Like here we are. I can just grab this. I've got my mouse. I can go into my different tracks. I can use that. I can use my keyboard shortcuts. Like it makes your iPad have the flexibility of a desktop or a laptop. It really does take you to the next level. And again, I know I hate it because I feel like what everyone accuses me of. I feel like an Apple fanboy. They're like, "Hey, you bought a $450 keyboard and plugged it in, and now you're saying it's a good investment." Yeah, I am, because for me it is, because I use my iPad for hours every day, every single day. If you're using your iPad once a week, no, you don't need a Magic Keyboard. But if you're using it every day like me, you do. If you don't want to go the Magic Keyboard route, what I would highly recommend is to get yourself a good quality Bluetooth mouse for your iPad. Mouse on an iPad with the cursor, as you saw before, it'll just change things up for you. Yeah, you can use a Bluetooth keyboard too, but I think a mouse is a little bit more important. And this is the mouse that I go with. There it is there. Here it is here. It's the Logitech M590 multi-device silent mouse. So this one, you've got Bluetooth, and you can connect it up to two different things. So this one connects up to both my Mac and my iPad, so I can use it on either. And it is silent because it really doesn't make much of a click. So it's really good if I'm doing some early morning or late night uh, iPadding, then I can actually just move around, and every time I click, it doesn't click. And it's actually really good if you're a live streamer as well, because it's not going to make much noise. So that's the other part of my desktop setup that I would recommend, because and don't skimp on a mouse. Seriously, folks, like Logitech makes some really good stuff, and I spent a lot of time faffing about with low end crappy mice, and it's just not worth it. It's kind of like a bed. Like we recently bought a new bed, and we probably spent twice as much on a bed as I would have wanted to. But you know what? I'm going to sleep on that sucker for 8 hours a night for the next 10 years. I want a comfy bed. It's the same with your mouse. How many hours do you spend mousing a day? And don't you deserve the best? I think you do. Uh, USB trackball. So yeah, I've seen a lot of people that love trackballs. And apparently they are way better for ergonomics. Apparently they are way more precise. And a lot of people in studios actually use trackballs. They use those big old Microsoft marbles that have the big track ones, or the Logitech. Can't remember what those ones are called. But yeah, I tried a trackball. Tried a trackball once. I used it for about a week because, again, I was getting sort of sore shoulder from a lot of mousing, and it just didn't gel with me. It felt like I was playing like one of those arcade games from the 80s with the with the trackball. What was that, like Defender or something that used the trackball? Yeah, I don't know that. But mices, get a good mice. Get a good mouses, because we don't hate mices to pieces. We love them. Alrighty, let's have a look here. You should show your song with electric guitar made for you so people can hear it, maybe like at the end of streaming. Yeah, I don't have it handy, but maybe for a future show, we can take a look at that, and we'll probably explore that sort of stuff on Patreon too. Once again, if you are enjoying this, there's a couple of things you can do to help me out. You can hit the thumbs up button if you're liking things, if you're having fun, if you haven't done that already. You can jump over to the gear guide here, studiolivetoday.com/gear. You can share this video if other people that are like, hey, Reg down the road plays drums. He'd benefit from hearing all about a mobile setup and asking questions. Send it to Reg. And you can become a patron. So if you go to patreon.com/PeteJohns, we have 75 of the most awesome folks there. We have a great little community, and we do a lot more streams and exclusive stuff just like this. So that is the ways that you can support. Let's dive in, shall we, and take a look at my desktop setup. So yes, that's all my mobile stuff, and there's going to be some crossover here, because you know what? I don't have two MIDI keyboards. I don't have two different, I do have two microphones, but we've already talked about those. I don't have two guitars, one for the mobile, one for the desktop. So there's a lot of crossover here, but I thought we would talk about all of the different stuff that I use on desktop that is actually different from mobile. Number one is the Mac Mini M1. Similarly to the fact that I never thought I would buy a Magic Keyboard for $450, I never thought I would spend $1,000 on a Mac Mini. Why? Because I'm a PC guy, because I've been a PC guy for 25 years and I've used PCs all my life and I'm a Windows user and I didn't know how to use a Mac. But Apple did something very clever. They did a couple of things. They made this Mac super affordable. They made it $1,000. They made it run the new iOS version, which is the new Mac OS version, which is very similar to iOS. It's more iOS than it's ever been before. And they did their silicon on a chip. So they made everything all integrated into a nice, neat little package that is. It does have a fan. I've actually never heard the fan on my iPad Mini, Mac Mini. Anyone's got a Mac Mini that's heard their fan? It sits there. It is quiet as a mouse, which is what you want in a studio and a live streaming environment. It has all the connections that I need on the back there. Yeah, look, it's a couple of USB ports short, but that's where another device, another powered hub that we're going to talk about in a minute comes in. But it's got two USB-C or Thunderbolt. It's got two USB regulars. It's got a network connection in there. It's plug, it's play. It does the job. It has served me really well. And I honestly thought a year ago, if you told me that this is where I'd be at, I would tell you that you're a lying liar who lies. But you're not. You're a truthing truther who tells the truth, because it has been a marvel for me. And one of the biggest benefits of using a Mac desktop and iPhones and iPads is airdropping between, is using iCloud, is just how they talk to each other and how they just communicate with each other. It is super convenient. So I got to say it. I would recommend it if you are going to use a desktop and a mobile setup and you're in iOS. You can use a PC. I did it for 5 years, but tell you what, the quality of life in the last year using this instead of a PC has been 200 to 300%. And I don't say that lightly, because I didn't want to. Just like the other thing, I didn't want to. One thing that I did want to like, and I do like, and I still use to this very day, is my Zoom LiveTrak L-8 mixer. Now, I have not a love-hate relationship with the Zoom LiveTrak. I love it. I just literally love it. It does everything I need to do. There's one thing it doesn't do, which it doesn't have a compressor on the microphone channel. So yeah, that's a bit irritating to not have a compressor on the channels here for microphones. But what this does for me is everything. So what you're hearing right now, the reason that I can play my iPad through this is that that's going in. So I've got my iPad plugged in to channels 5 and 6 here as a stereo pair. I've got my guitar in channel 2. I've got my mic in channel 1. I've got another stereo channel there that I can use. This channel here, the middle channel here, is the actual audio from my Mac. So I can actually integrate audio from my Mac. So when I do things like Your Music Live, I can play it through there. And it just lets me do everything. You got multiple headphone outputs here, so I can have multiple mixes. I can do a mix minus, so that when I'm doing interviews, it doesn't send out the audio. You've got effects here, so I can add in the digital effects. So when I'm doing a live show, I can just throw some reverb or some delay on my vocals if I want to. It's also a recorder, so it's a standalone recorder. You can chuck an SD card in there and record straight to that. It's got audio interface ability. It is iOS compatible. I don't use it with iOS. It's a bit clunky in iOS, but for Mac or PC, it is great. Yeah, it just does everything. And for the price, it used to be $399. It's now $449, probably due to shortages and other things. But for $450, like if you want to do everything mixer, I really can't go past it. It's served me well. It sits here on the desk. It doesn't miss a beat. Literally and figuratively. So the Zoom LiveTrak L-8 mixer for the win. I don't work for Apple. Apple work for me. That's right. Well, yeah, and that's the thing. I can honestly say, hand on heart, that I've never received a thing from Apple. Not even a piece of software. Not even a code for a piece of software at this point in time. I did ask them for Logic. We'll see. We'll see how we go with that. They did tell me that there was a free trial. That was their response. But yeah, I haven't received a cent. I have from what is it, like, coincidentally, because I've made videos about Apple and then advertisers have paid on those videos. But in terms of my relationship with Apple, it's fine. It's good. They appreciate and approve of what I do, but they got no choice, because if they didn't, that's too bad, too sad. And I say plenty of things about Apple that are not complimentary, shall we say. There's, they have their foibles, as we would say. They're not perfect, but nobody is. They're not a perfect $1 trillion company, right? Yeah. Okay. Next up. So, how do I survive with only 2 USB ports on my Mac? Well, I plug this in. basically, because this gives me a whole bunch more. 3 USB ports, 4 USB 3 ports, 3 USB 2 ports, and a smart charging port. So Atola make a bunch of different ones of these. There's 4-port versions, there's 8-port versions, there's versions with USB-C. This one, the USB 3 version, is just solid. Solid as a rock, $30, made out of like very hard wearing aluminium, this one, and it just does the job. Now, full disclosure, at the moment, I have my Targus USB hub plugged in, mainly because the one drawback of this is that when you have stuff plugged in and turned on, these LEDs are some of the brightest LEDs that you're ever going to come across. And if, like me, you have a bedroom studio, you know what you don't want in the middle of the night? Like 4 very bright blue LEDs shining straight up at your ceiling. It's a very nice light show, but it's not fun. So, what would I recommend? Well, yeah, there's different ones. So you can get something like a Targus. Bell can make powered USB hubs. Yeah, there's plenty of powered USB hubs out there. Atola just happened to make some pretty high quality ones, so you can't really go far wrong with something like that. We'll check in on questions here, and then we'll continue on. So Mark says, check the new Mackie 10 V3. It has compression, FX, and a small form factor for a lower price. Ooh, Mackie 10 V3. I will have to check that out. I will take that on. I was going to say I'll take that on notice, but no, because it's Mark. Well, let's jump in here and take a look. Because Mark's been doing some research on a mixer lately, so let's see what he's uncovered. Because the other one that I normally recommend to folks, if they're not going to go down that sort of route, is to go with a Yamaha MG series mixer. They are also very good pieces of kit. But let's just see what the Mackie 10 V3 is doing here. We'll see if we can find one on Sweetwater just to take a quick squizzle at, shall we? Sorry, Sweetwater's taking a long time now. Oh no, is it the next Facebook? Is it going down now too? Okay, cool. Yeah. So this one here. Oh. So, and keep in mind, the reason that the Zoom LiveTrak is more expensive is it's an actual recorder. So a lot of mixers like this one, I'm assuming it's the case with this, the USB that they have is only stereo out. So I used to have a Samson mix pad that was similar to this that only had stereo out. This is good though. This has got a compressor on the first 2 channels, which my Samson had. You've got 2 combo jacks there. You then got 2 other XLR jacks. You got some 1, 2, 3 stereo channels. So yeah, this is a solid mixer. So if you didn't need to record, and the difference being that if you plugged in, say, 4 different instruments here, you would record that all just as stereo sound. You wouldn't get the 4 individual tracks. Whereas with the Zoom LiveTrak, I can actually record individually and then mix separately each individual track. So my guitar, my microphone, my stereo, my keyboard, whatever I've got there, they all get recorded, and we can mix them after the fact. So, but yeah, good suggestion there. That looks like a good piece of kit for sure. All right. I think we're nearing the end here. We've only got a couple of bits of kit to go here. Thanks for hanging out. It's been a lot of fun here today. And do keep an eye out. We'll be doing some more videos in the coming days. We have Your Music Live is a day early too. So for regular viewers, if you want to catch Your Music Live, it'll be Friday morning, which is Thursday at 2 p.m. Pacific. No, hang on. No, it's not now. 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 9 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time. Check your local guides, please. It's it's there on the channel. But yeah, we will be earlier, and we'll be a day earlier because of daylight saving and because Pete's going away for a day, having a day off. All right. Now, weirdly, I'm using this again. Not exactly this. I've got the 2nd gen, but this is the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2. So I also have this plugged in to my Mac. So why do I have a mixer and an audio interface? Well, quite simply, that when I'm doing tutorials on GarageBand, I use the Focusrite as my input, just so that I can have a simple way with 2 channels. So I've got input 1 and input 2, so I can plug in microphones and I can plug in guitars and I can record, and then I can send the output through from there to my Zoom LiveTrak, and then I can mix that with my voice and with any other channels that I need to come in. So it just means, and this is one of the best things about having the Mac over the PC, is it supports multiple audio devices a lot better. So a PC, if you try to have a different device for the input and a different for the output, all sorts of driver conflicts and IO conflicts and all sorts of things. On the Mac, it just seems to simplify it a bit. So I'm using this at the moment. The main reason I'm using this and not the Steinberg is that this one actually has its headphone jack stuck. It has an old headphone plug that snapped off inside its headphone jack. So it doesn't work as a mobile unit. And so, but previously I was using this on my Mac and I was using the Steinberg on my iPad. I'm now using the iRig on my iPad and this on my Mac still. So I could swap this out for the Steinberg, but I can't really do anything. I can't sell this because if someone's using it standalone, they'll need the headphone jack. But because I only use it as a USB interface and just plug stuff in and use something else for output, I don't actually need the headphone jack. So that's why I use that. But to be honest, the Steinberg UR22 series and the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 have always been pretty much the same. The main difference is your Steinberg has MIDI and it has the multiple power supply. So you can power it by like a portable battery, which is super handy if you're using it for mobile. The Focusrite doesn't. In terms of the quality, there's not much between them. They're about the same. All right. But we've talked about the Persona speakers, so we don't need to talk about them again. And we're in the homeward stretch here. So last bits of kit. If you've been looking at the image quality here today, and you're like, oh, that's a pretty nice looking image quality. Yeah, it's because I'm using the Logitech BRIO, which is it's not a cheap webcam. It's $167 there, so you can pick up something like a Logitech C920 or C922 for probably half-ish that. But the reason this is good is that it has a glass lens. It's got a very wide angle lens in there. It is USB-C, which means it can stream 1080p like you're seeing right now really, really well. There's no bottlenecking at the point of that. Still got a terrible microphone, but don't use the microphones on your webcams. They're always going to be terrible. And it can actually capture up to 4K. I just use it at 1080p, but it is a very good webcam. And it's very changeable. So I can change things up. So I can change white balance and I can change all of my focus and focal range and a bunch of stuff that I don't understand. I basically just got it looking okay and then left it at that. So if you think that I look all right here on these streams, it's because of the Logitech BRIO and lighting. Someone was asking about lighting as well during the week. I literally just have two big soft boxes. I bought them on AliExpress for like $30 each. I chucked in some Philips LED globes and that's it. So that's all I've done there. So if you want to just get some decent lighting, soft boxes with those lighting stands, easiest way to go, simple option, in my opinion. And last but not least, what I've been using to type to you, to navigate, to do everything is this kit here. It is the Logitech MK850. And again, I know it sounds a bit boring to talk about keyboards and mouses, but don't scrimp and save. Like, don't shortchange yourself on the keyboard and mouse. This keyboard and mouse is the most comfortable and the most features, and it just feels good and touches good, and I just love it to bits. So Logitech make good stuff. This is one of the higher end Logitech non-gaming stuff, so I don't need a mechanical keyboard. I don't need to go down that path. But in terms of just having this, again, it's multi-device. You can use it with 3 different devices. I just use it with my Mac, to be honest. But it's Bluetooth. It's also USB, so you can plug it in via Bluetooth as well as USB, and it just works. And it's super silky smooth on the mouse side. It's super responsive on the keyboard side. I love it. And I think it's good. And I think you'll love it too. But again, it's not cheap. So you're going to end up paying $150 for your mouse and keyboard. But again, we're people who spend thousands of dollars on guitars. Why would you then go and buy the cheapest $20 keyboard and mouse? What? Don't make yourself suffer like that. And yeah, look, we've all got budgets. I get it. But if you're saving up, maybe treat yourself to something nice in the mouse and keyboard world. Well, there you go. We have just 4 minutes left here, folks, before we hit the 2-hour mark and turn into a pumpkin. That is all of the gear that I wanted to talk to you about here today. Hopefully, we've answered a bunch of your questions as well. If you have any final questions here live, throw them now. Speak now, or I wouldn't say forever hold your peace, but hold your peace for another week or two till we do another one of these. But yeah, that is going to do it for this one. If you're watching on the replay, don't forget, you can leave your comments and questions down in the question below, and I will always return there to answer those. All right, final couple of questions here. I'll have a quick drink and we'll jump into these. Do you have issues while mixing and mastering on a smaller screen like the iPad, for example? I've thought about connecting the iPad to a TV or beamer while editing. What's your opinion on this? Yeah, so I use the 11-inch iPad Pro. It's pretty good, but to be honest, because I had an iPad Pro 12.9, the first gen before, it's a little smaller and it can be a little bit fiddly. The good news is with your newer iPads that use USB-C, the adapter that I showed before, the Atola one, that has an HDMI as well as the USB. I kind of didn't mention that, meaning that you can send it out to a larger screen. So it is a good idea to get something like that you can send the HDMI out to somewhere else so you can view it somewhere else. That works well. Yeah, outside of that, if you want, I would stay away from using things like AirPlay to play it to like an Apple TV, because the latency you're going to get is going to be super frustrating. It's often like about a half a second latency, which is not great for music. Okay for mixing and mastering, but yeah, you'll move something and you'll hit the play button and it won't play, but it'll be playing. It'll get confusing. So yeah, definitely an option there. I'd go with the HDMI. Unfortunately, if you've got an older iPad with Lightning, you can't do it. There's no way to use audio and light. There isn't a Lightning to HDMI adapter, but it'll send your audio and your video both out via HDMI, and it means that you can't then use an audio interface or any other sort of audio gear with your setup. So there you go. Hopefully that helps you out. There is the gear guide. Once again, yeah, if you want to support me, there's a few things you can do. You can hit the thumbs up button. You can check out the gear guide at the link down below that Thomas Christ has put there. It's also down in the description. And guess what? There are links to every single bit of gear that I mentioned here. And I did, Randy D, mention headphones. These are my go-tos, Sennheiser HD 280 Pro. They are linked down in the description, along with all of the other bits of kit. Now, I'll put the US links there, the US Amazon links. So if you're somewhere else in the world, you just need to use the generic gear guide, jump into your country through there. But if you want direct access to all the gear that we're using, then yeah, we'll be good to go. Alrighty, thank you everyone for being here. And once again, please hit the thumbs up on your way out. If you missed the show, don't fret. We are here pretty much every day with some sort of video. And if you do have any final questions, do throw them in the questions below. I'll be circling back and answering any that I can get to. Thanks for being here. Please be kind to yourselves this week. Get out there and have some fun. Be kind to others, because that's always super important. Keep creating, folks. And I'll see you next time. Bye.